A Teenage Nightmares original, The Coworker. Hello, my name is Brady, and this story takes place during the winter of 2011. I had just landed my first job as a shelf stocker at my local Target. The work was straightforward, and the pay was passable at the time. At first, everything seemed fine, but there was one problem I couldn't shake: Jared, my coworker. It seemed like Jared would only ever talk to me, as if the rest of the employees didn't exist. He'd appear out of nowhere, asking me questions that felt off. Not about the job or the usual small talk you'd expect. No, it was always personal. What did I do for fun? Where did I go after work? Did I live alone? I brought it up to my coworkers once, trying to sound casual. Does Jared ever freak you guys out? I asked, half laughing to mask my discomfort. They all exchanged a quick look, then chuckled. He's just a weird guy, one of them said while shrugging. Don't let it get to you. Some people are just like that. But does he ever talk to you? Or anyone else? I pressed, feeling the unease creep back in. Not really. I mean, he's new, right? Guess he hasn't found his groove yet. Yeah, I think he started around the same time you did, another coworker added. We don't know much about him. That last part stuck with me. It wasn't just the words, but the way they said it, light, but almost dismissive. Like they didn't care to know anything more about him. But I understood because I myself wanted nothing to do with the guy. There was something deeply unsettling about Jared. On the surface, he looked like your average guy. Dark hair, clean-shaven, nothing out of the ordinary. But it was his smile that got to me. He smiled during every conversation, no matter the topic. And it wasn't a kind or polite smile. No, it was something else entirely, crooked, almost too wide. As if he was in on some private joke I'd never understand. But it was his eyes that really unnerved me. They didn't just look at you. They pierced right through you. Like they were digging into your soul, searching for something only he could see. No matter how many times I turned away or shifted uncomfortably, Jared never broke his gaze. There was an energy about him that made my skin crawl. He wasn't threatening, not outright, but being around him felt wrong, like standing too close to the edge of a cliff. One night, I was working after closing, restocking shelves and making sure everything was in its place for the morning customers. Normally, there were 6 of us on the night crew. But lately, things had been rough. 2 employees had quit just a week prior, leaving only 4 of us to pick up the slack. At first, the night felt like any other. The hum of the overhead lights filled the silence as I worked my way down the aisles. But as the hours dragged on, I started to notice something odd. The store was too quiet. I hadn't heard any of the others for a while. Not the shuffle of carts, not the usual chatter over walkie-talkies. Even Jared, who was impossible to ignore most nights, was silent. That was the strangest part. Jared didn't do quiet, not even in an empty store. I paused, listening. The only sound was the distant hum of the refrigeration units in the back. I told myself they were probably in another section of the store, but the stillness was starting to get to me. Something about it didn't feel right. About 15 minutes passed, and I was lost in my thoughts when I accidentally knocked over a few bottles of olive oil. They shattered on impact, the slick liquid spreading across the floor in a glistening puddle. I sighed, muttering under my breath, and headed toward the cleaning supply closet to grab a mop. The closet was tucked away in the back, past the staff-only doors, where the hum of the store seemed to fade into an eerie stillness. As I approached, something caught my eye. A dark liquid was seeping from under the door, pooling on the tiled floor. For a second, I froze, staring at the strange substance. It was dark and thick. My heart picked up speed as my brain scrambled for an explanation. Maybe someone had spilled something and hadn't cleaned it up? I stepped closer, my shoes squeaking faintly against the floor, and hesitated with my hand on the handle. I swung the door open, and what I saw froze the breath in my lungs. There, on the floor, were my coworkers, bloody, lifeless, and unrecognizable. It looked like some psycho had hacked them to pieces, leaving the cramped closet drenched in red. My stomach churned at the sight of their mangled bodies, the jagged cuts across their flesh telling a story of brutality I couldn't begin to process. It took a moment before my brain registered the details. The bloodied manager tag on one of the bodies and the faint outline of long hair on the other told me who they were. It was my manager and Carol. That meant Jared was still alive. Somewhere. I stumbled back, my head spinning, when I felt the unmistakable sensation of being watched. I turned, and my heart dropped. Jared was standing at the entrance to the employee break room, his figure silhouetted against the dim light. In his hands, he held a katana, the blade glinting faintly under the fluorescent lights, dripping with fresh blood. And then came that smile, that same unhinged, damned crooked smile. I bolted, my heart pounding like a drum, racing through the aisles toward the exit. My breath came in short, ragged gasps as I ran, the sound of Jared's crazed screams echoing through the empty store behind me. "Brady!" he howled, his voice laced with a manic fury that sent chills down my spine. The heavy thud of his footsteps grew louder, closer, as he chased me through the aisles, his wild screams cutting through the stillness. My foot suddenly hit the slick patch of olive oil I'd spilled earlier. I skidded, nearly losing my balance, my arms flailing as I fought to stay upright. For a split second, I thought I was going down, but adrenaline took over. I caught traction and kept running, the fear coursing through me like a second wind. But now he was right behind me. I could hear the swoosh of the blade slicing through the air, the unmistakable sound of steel as he swung his katana wildly. I didn't dare look back, but I could feel him, feel the unhinged heat of his presence bearing down on me. "Don't run, Brady," Jared shouted, his voice cracking with glee. "We're just getting started." I spotted the outdoors aisle up ahead, a flicker of hope in the chaos. Without thinking, I veered toward it, my eyes scanning the shelves for anything I could use. We kept machetes and knives in the aisle, perfect for cutting through the thick brush on camping trips, but tonight, I needed one for a much darker purpose. I grabbed the first machete I could reach, its weight solid in my hands. I didn't waste any time. I pulled the blade free from its packaging, the cold steel sending a sharp chill through me. This was it. I was ready to take this psycho down. I didn't wait long. As Jared rounded the corner of the aisle, his katana raised, I hurled the machete with all my strength. It struck him with a sickening thud, burying itself in his leg. He let out a guttural scream, collapsing to the floor in a heap of pain. Didn't stop to watch. I ran for the exit, my breath ragged, my hands trembling as I fumbled for my phone. I dialed the police, my voice a frantic mess as I begged them to hurry. "They're on their way, sir," the operator said, trying to calm me down. "Stay on the line." But I couldn't. My feet pounded against the ground as I ran out of the store, the bright lights of the parking lot welcoming me like a lifeline. It wasn't until later that I found out just how deep Jared's obsession ran. My manager had found a journal on the counter in the employee break room, its pages cracked open to a particular entry. The details on the page were enough to turn his blood cold. There, in black and white, was a chilling account of my murder, all planned out, step by step, every detail meticulously arranged. Apparently, Jared had been planning this for years, long before I even knew who he was. The job wasn't just a means to make a living, it was a calculated move to get closer to me. He'd been watching me, waiting for the right moment to strike. When my manager realized what was going on, he tried to call the police, but Jared stopped him before he could make the call. I don't know exactly what happened next, but I imagine it was swift. My manager never stood a chance. And then there was Carol, sweet, old Carol. She'd been nothing but kind to me, always with a smile, and yet Jared slaughtered her without hesitation. When the police asked Jared why he wanted to kill me, his response was simple and horrifying. "I wanted to wear his face." Those words still haunt me, the sheer madness in his voice, the way he spoke about it as if it were some sick trophy to be claimed. Jared is locked away now, behind bars, where he can't hurt anyone else. So to Jared, wherever you are, I hope you rot in that cell, knowing you'll never be free again. You'll never get the satisfaction of wearing my face or ruining another life.